America is building for a bigger national economy. And as everyone knows, this takes money, lots of money, not sitting around idly in vaults, but constantly changing hands, constantly in circulation. And that's just what's happening. According to every survey, your customer is spending more than ever. Personal incomes are up, and everyone has more money to spend. And next to the actual houses they live in, the American public considers the cars they drive as the most important things to spend their money on. And they want to replace them every year or so, to always have a new one. But they also know that they could make the old bus do for a little while longer. If they spent a few bucks on repairs and swallowed the keeping up with the Joneses desire for something new, they could generally kid themselves for a while into thinking they really didn't want a new car. But the desires are there, just the same. The smart salesman knows that every person has his weak spot that makes him a prospect. The trick, of course, is to find out what it is, and then move in. Not firing hit or miss, but building the sale by relating everything to this desire, strengthening it so you reach the point where the prospect actually sells himself. Now, regardless of who the prospect may be, his desires will generally fit into a few major headings, building blocks that'll get you closer to the sale. Right now, let's see what they are and see how we can interpret all of our Rambler features in terms of them, in terms of a prospect's desires. The first is a car with a personality, a car that's cute and fun to drive, with an identity that sets it apart from the others and makes it, therefore, most desirable to people who aren't satisfied with carbon copy cars. The elements of such personality are style, reputation, and prestige. And the Rambler offers more in these areas, an undisputed fact. The next block is performance and economy, both, as you know, mighty important to car buyers. The reason we have put them together as one block rather than two is that the average buyer thinks he can only have one or the other. But you have a story to give him to prove he can have both in one car, a mighty important building block. Now let's consider special features, those extras that either come with a car or are available as options. These are pretty important to today's luxury-minded buyer. And you, with your Rambler, can give him more. You can give him standard and more exclusive features, even some not available on other cars at any price. Certainly one of your best building blocks. Now let's move up to safety and comfort. The benefits every manufacturer is shouting about more than ever before. But more than ever before, your Rambler story is better than competitors, because your story is based upon safety and comfort facts the rest of the industry is just waking up to. Now there's one more building block, value, that all prospects are naturally interested in. And this year, you're going to have some real news in that department too. So, there they are, your big 7 building blocks to more sales in '57. The basic customer desires to which all your selling should be related. But now, let's look at our '57 Rambler carefully to see just how its features fit into these basic building block desires. The first is personality, and the long, low look of this personality is now accented by horizontal chrome treatment and horizontal paint treatment. From the front, you notice the big, massive parking and running lights, the headlights being a part of the grille itself, a wider, lower appearing grille because of the new T-bar trim. And whether it's this stylish cross-country or the all-new cross-country hardtop, a car combining station wagon features with the out-in-the-open feeling of the hardtop, you know you're riding in cute, compact style. Style with personality. But speaking of hardtops, the Rambler 4-door hardtop is a hardtop that's different. Not only in its sleek, low-slung style, but in the very construction which keeps it free from the rattles ordinary hardtops develop. Then, for Rambler personality at lowest cost, there's the stylish sedan, offering all the famous and exclusive Rambler features at a price with the lowest. And regardless of the particular model chosen, you'll find that Rambler interior appointments, the trim, and the color-keyed upholstery give an impression of compact luxury that simply can't be matched. And to give you plenty of price spread in these different models, the 57 Rambler is offered in 3 series with a choice of 2 engines, giving you a total of 12 different cars to sell. But speaking of engines, let's talk about performance and economy, both mighty important to today's buyer. And you have news, real news for any buyer. For the performance-minded, for instance, there's your new V8, American Motors designed and American Motors built, as completely modern in design as the Rambler for which it was designed. Look, for instance, at the over-square design, a ratio of bore to stroke that minimizes the loss of horsepower due to frictional heat. And speaking of horsepower, you've got 190 to sell in this most modern of overhead valve V8s. An engine designed by a firm that's been making overhead valve engines for 39 years. And like all American Motors engines, the Rambler compression ratio of 8:1 allows the use of regular fuel, making any miles per gallon economy story even stronger. But speaking of economy, don't forget your famous Typhoon overhead valve Rambler 6. This year improved for quieter operation and smooth 125 horsepower performance. And when you talk about economy for this famous power plant, be sure you talk 32.09 economy, because that's the miles per gallon figure of the most astounding, most publicized, most saleable economy run of them all. The coast-to-coast Rambler Economy Run. A drive from Disneyland in Los Angeles to New York City, a distance of 2,961 miles, with only 5 stops for gasoline. Now, since this was a standard Rambler and not a tricked-up car, drivers had to be mighty careful to squeeze out all this mileage between stops. That's why the car was carefully leveled whenever it was gassed to make sure the tank was really full. This is a part of the NASCAR procedure for all such runs, and this run was carefully administered by that organization. After fueling, for instance, the tank was sealed by a NASCAR official, so no one could possibly tamper with the fuel level between stops. Nor was this a controlled condition run either. Driving was on regular highways at normal driving speeds, and with the normal slowdowns for traffic tie-ups and driving through towns. But careful driving gave these impressive results. Nearly 3,000 miles for a little over 92 gallons of regular gas. An overall cost of $26.17, or less than a penny a mile. Yes, the 32.09 miles per gallon story is a story you can and should tell with pride to every prospect, 6 or V8. And when you're talking V8, make sure you tell about the brand new flash-away hydromatic transmission. Take the prospect for a test drive so he can feel the smooth power without annoying jerks. And you'll have a new 6 transmission too, the entirely new flash-o-matic, to be introduced in January on the Rambler 6. It operates on the torque converter with gears principle, will give smoothness and extreme dependability. Now let's look at our next building block. Special features. The extras you can offer that your competitors can't match. The things that often push you over the hump and into your clothes. The first is our famous airliner reclining seats, a feature over 75% of the people who drive would want to own. Only you can offer it, coupled with another famous feature, twin travel beds, which make the Rambler the perfect car for the sportsman who wants to go anywhere for his fish and not worry about the availability of motels or cabins. And one of our most talked about features is all-season air conditioning, a system that warms in winter, cools in summer, and filters the air all year round, and at a price much lower than most systems without a heater. But when it comes to heaters, only you can offer Weather Eye, the first fresh air heater, the first heater to take air in at a high level, and still the only heater where you need hardly ever use the fan. Another Rambler extra is power steering. Now, it's true power steering is available on practically every other car, but only you can claim that the power steering equipped Rambler is most maneuverable. Why? Because only you can offer a combination of effortless power steering plus the short turning diameter of only 37.5 feet. Women drivers will appreciate this. They'll also want Rambler power brakes, a pennies a day option on all models. There are other Rambler features, such as the handy swing-down glove compartment and our squeeze-type door handles that you can't get on other cars for any price. But now, let's look at another important building block: safety. A big thing in the advertising copy of most of your competitors today. And their safety story is based only on little things, things which you've had available for years. But they don't have your big story, built-in safety. With an all-welded single-unit body, a solid one-piece structural unity that not only protects the passengers, but makes the car stay new longer. While others ride on top of a frame, Rambler passengers are surrounded on all sides by strong structural steel framing members. And in addition, Rambler structural support does not stop at the firewall, but extends forward of the engine, offering protection from front-end collision. Want proof? Then consider the scientific tests that American Motors is constantly running with actual crashes of our own and competitive cars. Naturally, they don't use people in these cars, but they have some very intelligent dummies with brains consisting of deceleration and impact measuring mechanisms. When the dummies are in position, cars are crashed into this solid barrier at 25 miles an hour, a high enough speed to be deadly when a solid object is hit. The competitive car was shortened over 1.5 feet, enough to shove the engine backwards, and the force of the impact made the dummies' heads hit the windshield hard enough to break it. On our AMC car, however, damage was localized, front structural members having absorbed part of the crash force. What's more, all doors operated perfectly. These tests will constantly go on, using higher and higher speeds, car-to-car crashes, and crashes at sides to constantly make our safety story even stronger. It's an honest safety story you can sell. You can also sell Rambler Comfort, another sales building block. Until they've actually been in our car and had a demonstration ride, many prospects might feel that it's small. But you can prove that we actually equal or exceed many of the other cars in the important comfort dimensions. But in addition to dimensions, consider the comfort of the ride itself, the way the car takes the bumps and goes around the corners. Now, it's true most manufacturers have recognized the advantages of coil springs and use them. But Rambler coil springs are longer and softer for a smoother ride. You can only do this with our type of body design. Not only are they longer, but they're tilted outward to give a more stable ride, more effective cornering, just as a sailor braces his legs to take the roll of the ship. And in the Rambler, coil springs are on all 4 wheels for a real deep coil ride. This is only possible when you use our more expensive torque tube drive. You get more when you get Rambler, which brings us up to our final building block: value. What you get for your money. Now, value in a car is made up of 3 separate things, and you'll be better off in presenting it this way instead of concentrating only on the first. Price. What you must pay for the car to get it. Now, it's true Rambler, with its different engines, various models, and 3 series, does give a big price spread to accommodate any buyer. But of equal importance is operating cost. And you've got an economy and low service expense story that puts your value story way above others in this area. And as for your final element of value, trade-in allowance. Well, you just have to show your prospects the book to prove that Rambler is a better dollars and cents buy. To help you get this whole building block story across, you'll be provided with the most convincing selling tools you've ever had. Not only your regular data book, color book, and spec cards, but 2 new devices to help you get your story across. The first is your X-ray model Rambler, a plastic device that shows the difference between our single unit construction and ordinary separate body and frame methods. To help you sell accessories, there's your new accessory merchandiser, a chart that you use right in the closing room. The prospect looks at the accessory groupings arranged by page, such as this one on power options. And you can really whet the appetite even for expensive items, because while the prospect is looking at the description, you're quoting price on a monthly basis from figures on a back page which faces you. These are filled in by you and are based on various payment periods. No accessory seems expensive when presented this way. And to get this prospect in to talk to you, you'll find powerful advertising support in magazines, on the Disneyland TV show, and in a host of your own local media. But speaking of advertising, remember the popular ad last year of the snappy red and black cross-country barreling up a steep mountainside drive? According to a survey, readers remembered this ad and remembered the specific Rambler points made in the ad, such as compactness, economy, performance, and price. The ad apparently made readers feel that they'd like to have the fun of flashing up a mountain drive in a new Rambler, even though most of them had never talked to a salesman or seen the Rambler close up. And that brings to mind the old expression, if Mohammed won't come to the mountain must come to Mohammed. Now, in our case, as Rambler salesmen, the mountain is our own dealership, the place where we usually can get buyers to look carefully at our cars. And Mohammed, of course, is the prospect or buyer himself, the fellow we must get into our car if we're going to sell it. So, to modernize our expression to fit our modern car, if the prospect won't come to the dealership to see the Rambler, take the dealership to the prospect. Now, what that means in ordinary, everyday sales language is this. The people who come into the showroom to see our new Rambler are only a small fraction of the prospects who are actually, subconsciously, in the mood to buy a Rambler. The others who don't come in don't consciously know that they're prospects, even though they've been impressed by ads, by seeing the actual cars on the highway, and by many other impressions. They don't actually know that they're walking around with our building block desires. They don't know until someone reminds them. So what's the conclusion? If they won't come to you, go to them with the car itself and find out which needs are their needs. Once you've found that out, get them into that car and demonstrate until they realize that your Rambler is the only car that will fill their building block needs. We all know that the most successful salesmen are the ones who take the mountain to Mohammed, who go out and find prospects instead of waiting for the prospects to come in and announce themselves. The reason, of course, is that some men expect the world to beat a path to their dealerships. While they're back at their dealerships wondering about the lack of buyers, our kind of salesman is out taking advantage of the situation by getting first crack at prospects that could have belonged to the others. Furthermore, when he's on the sales floor, he doesn't recognize the meaning of the word shopper or be-back. He knows that no matter how he looks, anyone who does come into a dealership is at least thinking about a new car, some new car, and will eventually buy, most likely from the salesman who takes an interest in him and gives him a demonstration. Let's face it, in the automobile business, there's a tendency for us to take it easy and let our products sell themselves, because products like our Rambler are pretty exciting. But the salesman like yourself, who not only knows he has a good product, but knows all about the features that make it good, will want to put all this knowledge to work for one good reason: money. He'll want to make more so he can spend more. He'll want to build his sales so he can build his future. And he knows he can, because he's got the product and the building blocks to do the right job.